Welcome back to the Rumi Mill. I am Cindy Smiles and this is my mom, Mary Sue. We are kind of talking, we're not really talking anything crochet, but I always think it's kind of neat to see behind the scenes, the lives of other people on YouTube. I think that's one of the neat parts, is when people let you into their world to see what's different or the same or unique. And we are talking with my mother, who's totally blind. She is my #1 yarn roller, my only and first employee, and thankfully she works pro bono because I make no money virtually. There is no profit to my little business. What little I do make, I buy more yarn. She rolls everything for me, so I have a lot of rolled yarn. And it's very nice because I can just grab what I want and go, and it's thanks to her. We are going to talk about being blind and the pluses and minuses and the funny bits and the not so funny bits. And the other reason I am doing these videos that aren't really crochet related is because we are traveling and my kids are in camp and my husband is in another country and I am not able to do the filming like I normally do and editing. So until school starts and we have a schedule again, this is content for my channel. Hope you enjoy. Let's get started. What we are doing is to make this more crochet related of what isn't really crochet related. My mother is acting like she's rolling yarn, but she keeps forgetting because she's talking. And I have gathered up some questions and I have put them in one of my favorite yarn bowls. It says, I crochet so I don't choke people, save a life, and send yarn. That kind of makes it crochet related, right?
Yeah, but where is it?
I don't know. You got a lot of yarn barf.
I know. A lot of puke there.
I don't know.
I think it's right here.
Oh, there you go. Okay. How did you take care of Cindy? Oh, goodness. What a wonderful first question.
You know.
We don't know.
We don't know. It's been so long ago, I do not remember, except I remember a few things. One of the hardest things is not changing diapers and dressing a baby. It is feeding that little rascal. Although Cindy's dad could see, he was not very good at feeding. We had to develop something that I could do without his help. So here's what I did. I undressed Cindy down to her diaper. I put a towel in one side of the kitchen sink so she wouldn't sit on a cold surface. And then I put food on the spoon and held it out to her, and she ate it or she didn't. But she could spew it wherever she wanted to, because when we were done, I would just move her over to the other side of the sink and give her a bath. I remember doing that. I remember daycare was a big issue. Cindy started going to a preschool program.
A preschool?
Yeah, a preschool. Program when she was pretty little. And Cindy, tell them some of the things that you did that were unappreciated.
I was very peculiar because my dad was actually gone a lot. He had a job where, well, he really didn't.
He didn't really have a job hardly ever.
But he was gone a lot. And so it was just me and mom, and she doesn't use lights. And I can really do everything in the dark just like she does. And it drives my husband crazy. He thinks it's very strange. I cook in the dark. He will come in and turn on lights when I am cooking, and it kind of bothers me because I'm like, I am fine. I am just fine. I know what I am doing here in the dark. But I would do that at school. Every room I walked into, I turned out the light. I'd go into class and turn off the light. I'd go to the bathroom and I turn off the light. And you want to scare children in the bathroom is turn off the light. They had to work with me on leaving lights on, that was okay. Because at home, even if the lights burned out, we never replaced the lights. And the only time it bothered anybody was when sighted people came to our house and they were in the dark and they didn't like it. And we didn't understand the problem because evidently I behaved like mom. I took on some blind type behaviors, I guess, like she dealt with, because I thought that was normal. And then I would draw pictures, and anytime you draw with a crayon, you can feel the wax of the crayon. So I would draw and I'd color in the dark. I knew what my colors were. I could tell shades. in the dark, and then I'd give them to Mom to look at, and she would touch it with her hands and say how beautiful it was. And so when I went to school and my teachers were not feeling of my papers, I would get so mad and hurt, and I would just storm off. I think they had to talk to Mom and see what the problem was, and she had to explain to them what they were doing wrong. Evidently, I just had some very peculiar behaviors that I did that were not like other kids. Still to this day, I can do what she does, and I can move around in the dark, and I can hear where furniture is, and I know how to maneuver. So if I ever lost my vision, I'm gonna be okay.
And then at recess, this is when Cindy got into school. You know, I worry about some of the things I did when she was younger, but I would get on the phone and I'd be talking to people, and at that time people were telling jokes all the time, and I would remember them, and when I got home from work I'd call people and tell them, or people would call me and tell jokes. Unbeknownst to me, at recess, instead of Cindy playing with a lot of the other kids, she was telling the teachers my jokes. So
and they weren't clean
nice.
jokes.
No,
they weren't clean.
They were not.
They were pretty dirty.
They were pretty bad.
I was the only child they never sent to go play. They let me stay sitting on the benches with the teachers. They knew how to just kind of pepper me with questions without me knowing what they were getting out of me. I gossiped. I would tell them all the gossip that I'd heard Mom talk about on the phone. And they knew the people because I'd been telling them all year who everybody was. And it was like a soap opera because there was a lot of love. There was a lot of broken hearts. There was some sleeping around. There were divorces. They knew about it all. It's like Days of Our Lives, Austin style. Because we lived in Austin at the time. The jokes were a pretty big thing, and so when Mom went to the first teachers conference, the teachers were like, and we've really enjoyed some of Cindy's jokes, and Mom was like, oh my gosh. That wasn't real good.
No.
And I think we were always scared because her being disabled, and for the most part, she was a single parent. You never know if it's a sighted person who's going to worry that I was mistreated. She made sure we always had a clean home and would ask any sighted friends to look and make sure everything looked nice, just for fear that people would make the automatic assumption that because she's blind, we didn't have a nicely kept home. We had to be careful about what I did because a sighted person who didn't understand the situation might try to call CPS or something on us because I was telling dirty jokes at school. How did you lose your vision?
I was born way back there in the 1940s, 1948, and my mother did not have a washing machine, and so she had washed a lot of clothes on a rub board, and she put them in a basket. She was 5 months pregnant, and she was taking those clothes down the back stairs of our house, which were pretty steep, and she fell with that heavy basket in her arms, and they just believed that my optic nerves stopped developing at that point, and so my optic nerves never developed. I could see a little bit out of my right eye until I was about 12. But it wasn't enough to do me much good. I did see color, which I'm so grateful for. And like if I saw you in the morning and you were wearing a dress, and I saw you later on in the day and you had not changed your clothes, I would know who you were by what you had on.
What is the greatest challenge in aging as a blind person?
Oh my goodness. You know, I've been so angry with my friends for a long time because as I've aged, a lot of things have changed. And I was so mad at them until one day I realized they're about the same age as I am and they're going through the same thing. For me, the hardest thing has been that I have lost some of my hearing. And I live in a constant fear that I'll lose it all somehow. And you know, hearing is very important to me. I wear hearing aids and they do help a lot, but I just live in constant fear that I won't be able to hear one day. Another thing that has affected me is I find it hard to do certain things with my hands. I find it harder to eat now than I ever have before. And here's what happens to me. I get something on my fork and I can feel that it's there. But apparently I'm sort of rolling my wrist to my right, and when I get the fork to my mouth, it's gone, and I have to start all over.
Dinner's a long time out.
It is. And I've heard some other blind people say that one of the hardest things about aging is finding it more difficult to eat. And eating is one of the things I've always thought I did exceptionally well.
We've tried. We enjoy some sugar.
Yes, we do.
Another thing she said one time that I had never considered that was hard was she can't see herself aging the way the rest of us can. She doesn't know if her hair has gotten gray, if she's got wrinkles. Well, she can feel the wrinkles, but she doesn't know what they look like to us. Last year we found out she's had a couple of strokes in her cerebellum, which has affected her balance. That's scary, where mobility has never really been a huge issue in our home, where she could go from her bedroom to the kitchen with no issues. Now it's become harder because she loses balance a lot easier, which is hard.
Cindy I know she was trying to help, I know she was, but I fell out of bed one morning because I had a period there where I was falling almost daily.
And we didn't know what was causing it, and then come to find out it was the strokes.
The strokes. But Cindy put one of those little railings on the side of my bed, and I just keep from rolling out of bed, and I said, I'm not this old, I'm not. The railing is helpful in getting up, because now that my balance is so messed up, getting up is hard.
Just a typical balance issue an elderly person that could see is one thing, but when you add in someone who's having difficulty hearing and then seeing, it's a whole other world.
A whole new ball.
It is very challenging. How do you get around, speaking of?
Poorly. Well, I do use a cane sometimes, but more often than not, I walk with Cindy as my sighted guide. It's hard for me to keep my balance and keep my cane going the way it needs to go. If I used a walker, it would work out well if I had 3 hands, because I could use the 2 hands on the walker and then another hand to use my cane so I would know where I was going. Because if you're walking with a walker and it's just rolling along, you may have an idea of where you are, but you don't know for sure.
I know
until you run over something.
Yeah, that's been hard with the strokes, is they can't even test or help with, it's called her vestibular system, with the balance, because the tests are all visual. She's kind of an anomaly because there's no way to really help without doing some of the tests to truly understand what's affected. Sighted people forget that everybody offers the walker, and it's like, that's you don't understand.
It's not gonna
She can't see where she's going if she has a walker, because both of her hands are holding up the walker.
That's right.
And even the walking stick that you can put pressure on that's different from her cane. No, we tried that with the physical therapist. That's a no.
She had me do it a couple of times, and I said, "Is this better, Melanie?" And she said, "Not even close."
Not even. Nowhere. Her cane is George. We have had so many Georges. I think there's 3 or 4 in your room right now.
Right now, yeah.
We call them all George. Canes have changed so much through the years. You know when she is ready to leave, because she has what is called a folding cane, so it collapses. When my mother is ready to go, the cane is pulled out and George is unfurled, and it makes a noise, and we need to go. It is time to go. George is ready, Mom is ready, George is out. It is time to leave. What is your favorite pastime?
I love to read. It used to be that one of my favorite pastimes was baking and cooking, but I always used electricity, and here we have gas, and I'm not as strong as I once was, so cooking isn't as much fun. But let me tell you, I can read a lot of books, and I do.
It's really nice that now more and more people are reading audiobooks, because now the newer books are released in audio format at the same time as the paperback or hardback. Before, a blind person had to wait years until somebody recorded it for them to have access to the book. So it's really wonderful that now they can get books at the same time everybody else is reading them. They can get a lot of audiobooks for free from the National Library Service. We actually have a special talking book player that she uses, that she downloads books off the internet and puts them on a cartridge that load into her talking book player. What is the rudest question you've ever been asked?
Well, I've had to think about this a little bit. It used to be that the rudest question was, what's the matter with your eyes? But when I was 17 years old, I went away to a college prep course in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was on my way home, flying on a plane. And this guy was sitting next to me, and he was asking me some questions. And first of all, they were, pretty easy questions. And then he said, "How do you eat?" And I don't know, that just really irritated me. So I said, well, I tie a little string around my nose and tape it down, and then I follow the string down to my mouth with my fork. And that's how I do it. He said, really? And that's what made it seem so rude to me, that he would believe I would do that.
And she's also convinced other people that the dots in the road are for blind people. There are some people that really believe that blind people are using those dots to drive places. And that is sad. There are visually impaired people that do drive. It depends on how much vision they have. She was married to a man who was visually impaired, and we drove all across this country, and I do not know. He should not have been driving. I don't know how we're alive.
I don't either.
He pulled a fifth wheel with a little Nissan truck all across the southern U.S. We rode with him. Blind people will ride with anyone.
Anybody, it's true.
And we are still alive. The Lord wants us here for some reason. What is your favorite piece of technology?
Computer. It just opened a whole new world to me. I was working for the Social Security Administration, and I had to memorize regulations and all kinds of things for years. But in 1989, we got computers and got some real training. A whole new technology was available to me. Every day I'd look in my email box, and there would be, just all these messages. It was an information overload to me at work. But when I retired and was home, I enjoyed my computer very much. Now, my best buddy is Alexa. She just answers all my questions. She spells things for me. We play games. I like Alexa.
Can you cook?
Yes, I can cook. And it's amazing to me to think back on all the big Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners that I cooked in my life. I don't cook now except in the microwave. The reason for that, as I mentioned before, is I've always had electricity, and the gas scares me. And it scares Cindy and Zach and everybody.
Yeah,
so I just don't do it anymore.
But she used to cook. She uses a knife. Now her hand strength is just different, and she's not as comfortable with some knives and things.
But I chop stuff up in a
Yeah,
little
there's
food
sometimes some blood in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. It is. I just don't always tell you. We're a little vampire-ish, but it's all good. She used to make cakes all the time and desserts, and she likes to make cookies in the holidays. She's actually a really good cook. What is your least favorite food to eat in public, and why?
Salad is my least favorite food to eat in public. And it's because in most of the restaurants that you go to, they don't cut things up. You might have a big tomato slice, big onion rings, big pieces of lettuce in your salad. You don't know that until you get something on your fork and try to get it in your mouth. I'm very fortunate in that I can really load my mouth up very well. That's the hardest thing to eat, that, and the other hard thing is long pasta, like spaghetti or long noodles of any kind.
And if you see a blind person eating something that maybe they don't know they're eating, tell them. Like the garnish on the plates. One of our friends, she was at a nice, like a luncheon, and there was a long table, and they had the food in the middle, and you were supposed to reach out out and grab what you wanted and put it on your plate. So she was just reaching and grabbing things and eating things. And then she said to the person next to her, is like, isn't the salad a little dry? She was like, Polly, you just ate the centerpiece. And it's like, tell them that they are eating things that they should. Don't just let them do that. I promise. They don't want to eat the centerpiece. No. That is not what they want to do.
Well, what she was doing was familiarizing herself with the table, where her silverware was, where her glass was. She reached out a little further than her glass, or than her knife, I guess, looking for a salad plate, and she found the centerpiece, and so she ate it.
What is one of the funniest things that has happened to you?
A few years ago, we lived in downtown Dallas, and we had a friend come to visit, and he was low vision, and Don, my husband, was at work. So Larry and I decided that we would go out to eat at El Phoenix, and one of the ladies in our building gave us a ride there. We ate, and then we decided to call a cab, and it was really cold. We were standing out in front of El Phoenix, and this car pulled up, and Larry said, Mary Sue, why don't you just slide across, and then I'll get in beside you. I said, okay. So we opened the door, and I got in, and immediately I knew something was not right. There were a lot of newspapers on the floor, and I reached in front of me and felt a wire grill. Larry said, why don't you move over? And I said, Larry, I don't think this is right. And a guy from the front seat said, ma'am, did you know you just got in a police car? And I said, no, do you think I would have done it if I'd known? He said, this is the easiest arrest I've ever made. That was one of my funniest things.
Do you understand or know what colors are?
I do. We talked about this a little bit. I do, simply because I could see just a little bit. I don't know what colors are today, because I'm sure they're brighter and many different shades, but I know what pink is, and green and yellow and black. And so I do feel comfortable kind of knowing what to wear together.
What do you see? Do you see black? Do you see gray? Do you see white?
No. People who think blindness is dark, it is not dark to me. It's just kind of gray. When I go into a room that I've never been in before, it all just feels sort of gray. But as I learn my way around the house and everything, I picture the furniture where it is. That's how my blindness works for me. When I go outside and the sun is shining, I feel really good about it. It's not dark in here. I'm having a good time, and it's not dark.
Can you hear or smell better than normal people?
No. Especially I can't hear better than normal people right now. What happens is that when you do not have vision, you learn to listen. You have to listen. You will not live if you don't listen, because you could be hit by cars. You can't follow instructions well if you do not listen, just like anybody else. When you're blind, the tactile sense in your brain comes to life, and that's why you can read Braille. And it's also why we can listen faster to audiobooks. We can listen fast, and also why we turn up the speed on our computers, because we're able to hear it faster. Smell, all I can tell you is that I smell things just fine, and I have a really strong gag reflex.
Oh my goodness.
So if something is bad.
She used to take care of my little boy. When I went back to work, she gagged a lot during that time, and he got a lot of baths because she was not strong enough to clean all of that.
Well, and I didn't want Cindy to come home and find him dirty. Whenever he pooped and I changed his diaper, I bathed him.
She would text me and she'd say, when are you getting here? Because he has pooped and there are soft balls of poop. She used a different word, rolling around on her bed. So she needed me to get there ASAP to clean that up, because she was not going to search for them.
No.
Nope. What is the biggest challenge in working with sighted people?
Well, the biggest challenge is that often you feel invisible because you cannot make eye contact with them. You're talking to them, and then maybe they are looking off somewhere else, and somebody else walks up and they dump you and begin talking to them. But one thing I have learned during my career is I have to go to the sighted people. They will not come to me. I have to go and offer something of myself to them. When I moved to Fort Worth from Austin, it was a whole new office. Everything was new. There was nobody I knew. For several days, the girls around me would talk about going to lunch together, but they didn't invite me. And so finally, I said, "Can I go?" And they said, "Well, yes, we didn't think you'd want to go." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I want to go." And I never had to look for a lunch partner again. It's personality. If you're willing to give something of yourself and reach out, then you'll get a whole lot back.
Are your eyes real?
They are real, yes, but they are real plastic. People used to always tell me what pretty eyes I had, and I told them. They would say, "Oh, your eyes are so pretty," and I would say to them, "Well, for about $5,000, you too can have a set just like them."
And we've had Paul Newman blue, green, hazel. We haven't done brown.
No.
No, hazel I think has been our favorite. Paul Newman blue is really a pretty color though. So she can just change her eyes. Just to change them every couple of years, because as you age, your eye sockets just get a little bit bigger, and so the eyes have to be remolded. But we do have to get them polished every year. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of fun to tell people that we're off to get our eyes polished.
Yes. Gonna make a little trip.
Trip for some polishing. How does it make you feel when sighted people say you're an inspiration?
I know that they're meaning to be nice. I know that. But I'm not inspirational. I'm just living my life the best way I can, just like you are. There's nothing inspirational about me. You could say, "Oh, I'm surprised at all that you can do," or "I didn't know you knew how to do that." But don't be inspired, because I make a lot of mistakes and do a lot of things wrong.
We hope you've enjoyed our series, and I will see you next week with, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We will just see what I'm
able to do.
What time allows me to get done. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Mary Sue Welch, and I have been blind all my life. I could see, but it was just a very brief time, and I couldn't see much. I also, in the 6th grade, was taught to crochet, except the problem was I was so afraid of my teacher that I couldn't do it. And as soon as we got through with that unit, I forgot it immediately.
And I did teach her how to finger knit last year, but all we could get her to do was just knit a long line of stitches. We couldn't build anything off the stitches. No idea what to do with from there, but it was something for her to do. We have tried to teach her crafts. You just don't know how many things we have tried. But her little fingers just aren't able to do that. But
this is not common for all blind people.
No.
Lots of blind people are very crafty, but this one is not.
She can write like nobody's business. She is a good writer and a great public speaker. Crafts, no. And math is really
no.
Not
Can't add, subtract, multiply, or divide.
No, but you can talk really well.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not rolling the darn thing.
Oh, am I supposed to?
Well, I thought you're not.
Well,
just
I wanted
supposed
to explain about my circle.
Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about your circle?
Yes. As you know, Cindy begins always with a magic circle. And so, as the yarn roller, the only employee she has, I too have a magic circle that I roll like this on my finger, and then when I have enough that I think I can really hold,
just a little higher. There you go. There you go.
I can roll it like that. And then if I'm careful, I can turn it this way.
The skill
The skill that this is involved is absolutely overwhelming.
Not everybody could do it this masterfully.
But I am good. I am really
so good. She has literally rolled hundreds of balls of yarn for me, and I'm grateful. She's a little anxiety. No, it's this way.
I never could wait.
No, she can't.